We're not always looking for exact answers when we solve trig equations. Sometimes we'll need to use our calculator. And you need to make sure that, make sure that if you're solving for degrees, your calculator's in degrees, or if you're using radians, your calculator's in radians. We're going to look at example 8 on page 606, and it says, use a calculator to solve the equation sine of theta equals 0.8. Now, you're going to use your inverse sine because what this equation is saying is, where is the sine of my angle? What angle is the sine of that angle? 0.8. So you simply take your calculator and punch in the inverse sine of 0.8. And when you do that, and this is asking me to solve in radians. So I'll put my calculator in radians like we've talked about. So you're going to, on most calculators, you're just going to hit mode and make sure that your calculator is in radians instead of degrees. And you're going to hit the second and the sine key, and you're going to type in 0.8. Now, when I do that, I get 0.9273 if I round. Okay? So it's asking for this in radians. And if it said find all the solutions, we would do like we did with the other problems, and we would say, well, my answer is approximately 0.9273 plus or minus 2 pi k, because we're saying every time it crosses a circle in that particular place, that's an answer. Now, if it just said to find it in the interval from 0 to 2 pi. Now, what that's saying is, it's saying don't include 0, but do include 2 pi. So it's saying around the circle, everywhere that my sine is 0.8, which is positive, we will have an answer. So where sine is positive, sine remembers the y value, is in this quadrant and in this quadrant. So my angle is 0.9273 radians. So in this triangle, remember we have the reference angles, my theta is 0.9273. But it is also in this triangle. And this is pi right here. So my other angle, where sine would be 0.8, would be pi, which is 3.14, minus 0.9273. So we would take our calculator and we would go 3.14 minus 0.9273, and we would get radians of 2.2127. Now, if I were to hit sine of 2.2127, I would get roughly 0.8 if I rounded. So you have two answers here. 2.2127 is the other answer if I had said find the answers from 0 to 2 pi. So let's recap just a little bit. If it says find all the solutions, you simply hit the button on your calculator, the inverse sine of 0.8, and it's going to give you that answer on the screen, because this is radians. Gives you that answer, and it's approximate because we rounded. That's the one answer that the calculator gives you. Remember when we talked about these inverse functions, we said that the calculator will only give you one of the answers. Sometimes there's more than one answer on the unit circle. if we say find all the solutions, what we're saying is every single time that goes around the circle, it's going to pass there and we're going to have that answer. So we're going to have 0.9273 plus or minus 2 pi k as an answer where we have all the solutions. So that's one solution that we actually have. Now, we also said that sine is positive in this quadrant. So here is another place that we're going to have that answer. And every time it passes there, we're going to have that particular answer. So we figured out this one that came out to 2.2127. So we also have 2.2127 plus or minus 2 pi k. Every time it passes that particular place, it's going to be an answer also. So when it asks for all the answers, you need to make sure that you put this notation at the end to say, every time I pass, by that place on the circle, that's my answer. If it narrows it down for you and just says, this is basically saying, give me all the answers on the circle the one time, you only have the 2 answers. You don't need the special notation. So that's where those answers are coming from. Now let's do one. I'm going to do another one, and I'm going to do it in degrees. Be so confused, hopefully. I know you guys do better with degrees. So let's do that same one. Let's suppose I had sine of theta equals 0.8. And I said, I want you to find all the answers on the circle. And the last one, I said, let's give it to me in radians. And this is how you would know that I want the answer in radians. It's because I'm giving you the circle in radians. If I wanted my answer in degrees, I would do it like that. And I would say, this is really saying find all the answers on the circle in degrees. So I would take my calculator and I would punch in inverse sine of 0.8. I would make sure my calculator was in degree mode if I want the degree answer. And I would say second sine 0.8. And this time I would get roughly 53 degrees. That's one answer. That's one that's in this quadrant, right here, first quadrant. 53 degrees is in the first quadrant because remember the first quadrant goes from 0 to 90. Sine originally was positive. There are 2 places on the unit circle that the y values are positive, in the first quadrant and in the second quadrant. This is 180. I'm backing up to get to this angle. So 180 minus that 53 degree angle, because they're both the 53 degrees. So 180 minus 53 comes out to roughly 127. So I have those 2 answers. Those are the 2 answers that I would be looking for if I had something like that. So you have to really pay attention to those reference angles when you're looking at that.